Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Sad Sadiq here for PakPassion, bringing you another exclusive interview. Now, I'm interviewing somebody who I know whenever he played against Pakistan, I worried because I knew he would take wickets. 224 wickets in 64 tests, 41 wickets in 30 ODIs, a marvellous 13-year international career. He played 101 internationals for South Africa. He was Pakistan bowling coach for a stint as well at the T20 World Cup in 2021. And these days, he is doing a fantastic job in the commentary box. The one and only Vernon Philander. Vern, hope you're doing well.
Yeah, good evening, Zach. Thanks again for having me. Yeah, lots of smiles for a very particular reason. I'm pretty sure you know why. But yeah, it's just wonderful to see the boys obviously lifting a test mace after a pretty hectic 2-year stint.
I can see your smile, Vern, and it's a big smile, and it's well deserved as well. And I mean, it's a big moment for South African cricket, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. I think to get a chip off the back at obviously ICC events. We've obviously come short on a couple of occasions, but this time around to pick up the test mates, and I suppose it being obviously the pinnacle of the game, test match cricket. To have worked so hard over a 2-year cycle, I think massive. I'm pretty sure that the country's going to get stuck in behind the boys as soon as they touch on our shores tomorrow. I don't think it's sunk in as yet, but I think there's going to be a massive, obviously a massive amount of people waiting for the squad tomorrow as they arrive in Johannesburg. But again, I think, like you said, it's massive. Yeah, not just for South Africa, but also I think for those minor test nations, just to almost have the belief that you can go up there and you can win and obviously challenge those big three nations. But I think a magnificent job done by South Africa.
It's not just a big moment for South African cricket, Vern. It's a big moment for South African sport and for the nation as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you look at what rugby has achieved in South Africa. I think 4 times world champions, and there's certainly a movement towards growing closer to all other sporting codes. So I think it's wonderful to see Coach Supri Conrad interacting with Rassie Erasmus, the Springbok coach, and just hear ideas as to how to unite players over and above obviously the sport that they play. And I think it's something that really stood out for me in this particular test match against Australia. It's the unity of their test squad. They didn't rely on one particular person. It was a squad effort. And yeah, it's wonderful to see how guys can unite and at the back of the day, or to see them actually being victorious. I'm obviously winning multiple test matches. I think some tough matches away from home. I mean, I cast my mind back to them having to go and win in Bangladesh. With a young squad, unknown batters. To those unknown obviously conditions. So a wonderful effort by the guys all around. But again, I think the one thing that really stood out for me is the way that they've been able to unite as a team.
When Temba Bavuma was appointed captain for Test cricket, Vern, there was a few raised eyebrows. A few people thought, is he the right choice or not? But he's been fantastic. First 10 Test matches, won 9, drawn 1. What an inspiration he's been.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, given the fact that he comes from a little town called Langa, and I mean, if you listen to his story, I mean, in many ways, it's a heartbreaking one, but I think it's also one that really speaks to the masses in South Africa. I think there's a lot of people, obviously, from poorer communities, poorer backgrounds, and I mean, what an inspiration. I also think that if there was ever one guy to unite the nation, I think Temba was going to be that guy, and I think he's done a wonderful job. To get the players to play for him, I think that's always a big challenge. When we talk international cricket, but yeah, the way that the guys have reformed themselves, they just look a different squad. I think I've played in many a team, with multiple superstars, massive names in world cricket, but you always felt that in those kind of teams, you're almost like an individual, within the team. But I think given this squad's performance, the way that they've adapted to certain conditions over the last 18 months, it was really a squad effort. I think we might say a team effort. I still feel that that it is an overall squad effort. I think you look at the squad that has gone to the UK now. There's a couple of names missing there. Dane Pitt, you cast your mind back to the test match that they've won down under against New Zealand, the 5 he took down there, the role that he's played in the West Indies. Dane Patterson, the summer that he's had in South Africa. So there's a couple of names that that's obviously missing from that team that went over to to the UK for this test, for the World Test Championship final. But I think if you look at the amount of names that he's produced over the last sort of 18 months, he's created a very good headache for himself. And it bodes well for obviously the next 2 years as well.
When there's pictures and videos of Bavuma holding the mace, going all around the world, Vern, and South African kids in the townships will see him holding that mace. Just what does that do for the future superstars, the future interest of cricket in South Africa?
Yeah, I think it sends a massive message of belief. I think for a couple of kids, sitting at home right now, seeing a young guy from their hometown, being able to lift that mace as a captain, as a leader, I think it speaks volumes. I think it's things like this that really, pick up communities. I think there's obviously, a lot of adversity, that's still being fought within those communities. But I think, seeing a young Temba Bavuma, lifting the mace at Lords sends a massive message of obviously, being positive, of hope, of belief. And I don't just think it's South Africa. I think it's all around the world. I think when I was working in the West Indies recently, there was a lot of talk around Temba Bavuma, the pressure that he walks out every time he goes to bat, a lot of question marks around him. But I think he's answered every one of those critics in the right manner. I think if you look at his test average in the last sort of 18 months, he's right up there. I think 50 plus, in the test arena. So he's answered his critics in all the right in all the right ways. Scoring runs, fantastic leader, got the best out of his squad, and I think to see him lift that mace is a massive sentiment to strong character, a guy that has obviously fought a lot of adversity. But for me personally, for a guy to bounce back and show that side of that kind of character, speaks volumes to the rest of the world as well.
You mentioned previous squads had big names, big superstars, world beaters in them, but the cohesion in this squad, I mean, it was true to the Rainbow Nation, wasn't it? All different ethnicities, but that cohesion and that team spirit, that willingness to fight was evident.
Yeah, I think many a time when you enter these big competitions, with those superstar names, you almost feel like you play second fiddle as well. If you're just a regular in the squad, if you're a newbie, so a lot of attention, get obviously drawn onto those big names. But I just felt with this particular squad, like you said, there was a massive cohesion, there was a massive, belief factor within the squad. And they didn't just depend on one particular bowler to get him across the line. It was, when it wasn't Cage's day, he's handed over the baton to Dane Patterson, like I said earlier. A massive ball in this particular final was Langa Ngidi. I think there was a lot of question marks. But again, if you have that belief behind you and that backing behind you from a management, as a player, you can feel that. And I'm pretty sure, at times, in your international career, you're going to go through obviously leaps and bounds, and you're going to go obviously have a bit of dip in form. But if you have the backing and the belief of your management team, you're going to come good at some stage. And you can just see it from the outside in that this squad really has the backing of their management team. So like you said, it's those little moments in a game, where you become hesitant, you become a little bit, obviously having a bit of doubt in your own ability. It's those sort of moments, where your overall squad belief, obviously factor into your own personal belief. So for me, I think a wonderful job done by this management team. Just the way that they've led this team. Obviously not just not just in this particular final, but over the last sort of 18 months. It's just wonderful to see, them bringing the best out of them as human beings. And I think they're going to go from. I think that belief factor will certainly sell over the next sort of probably 2 years as well.
South Africa cricket is getting things right, Vern, in all formats. They're going from strength to strength. We've seen them win the World Test Championship, but T20Is, ODIs, the team is going from strength to strength. What is South African cricket getting right, and what can the world learn from them?
Yeah, I think they've done a number of things, right? I think, first of all, you always look at, the T20 competition, and you look at the standard of a T20 competition. So the SA20, I think, is a massive factor, and you have to factor it in. I mean, you're playing with world stars alongside you. All of a sudden, you've got superstars sitting in those changing rooms, which can exchange ideas. I think if you look at a couple of South African, their superstar names that's featuring in the IPL, that's featuring over in the PSL. So, I mean, these guys are playing all around the world. So, and you're interacting, like I said, with other superstars from different nations, and they rub off and they share ideas, and ultimately it's going to embed you as a player. And I just feel that South African cricket has always been, for me, a nation that can adapt very well. If you look at our away record, I think at the time I joined as well, but from about 2006 till about probably 2013, we had a hell of an away record. To tour obviously the subcontinent, to win the subcontinent, to go down under Australia. I mean, to beat Australia 3 times on home soil. I mean, those sort of records speaks volumes for itself. But I just think, right now, with the obviously, the opportunities afforded to these youngsters to go around the world, play in different conditions, sit with different opposition and discuss different ideas and tactics, that work in different conditions, put them so much further ahead than what a squad would have been probably a decade ago. So, yeah, I always feel that South Africa is always going to be a team to be reckoned with. And it's wonderful to see them obviously coming to the fore in the manner that they have done so.
The future looks bright as well, Vern, doesn't it? Because you might have one guy retiring from the T20 format, and you've got 3 or 4 players who can fill his boots. And same in the Test format, you get a couple of injuries, Nokia, and other guys get injured, and then others come in. I mean, it's just fantastic, isn't it? That production line of fantastic cricketers is there.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. I think if you look at the way that we've been able to manage and to produce those fast bowlers like you've just managed. Like you've just said. I think if you look at Dale Steyn retiring, everybody asks, who's the next guy to step up? All of a sudden, you've got a handful. You've got Nokia, you've got Kagiso Rabada, you've got Lungi Ngidi, you've got there's a couple of guys in the wings that's obviously being injured at the moment. So Gerald Coetzee, sorry, Gerald Coetzee. So I mean, all of a sudden, I don't think South Africa's ever been short of talent. It's about affording these guys the opportunity to go on to the bigger stages and obviously just get experience. Number one, I think that's the biggest question mark that there has been in South African cricket. That the guys haven't had enough experience by the time they reach international cricket. But now, with all of these T20 leagues going around, I think a lot of these guys being signed by obviously franchise teams around the world. So that's the way in. That's the way they develop themselves as players. And like I said, sharing changing rooms with some of the world's best players, will only aid in your progression as a young professional player as well. So, yeah, like I said, the SA20 has given a lot of these players opportunities to go and showcase their talents around the world. And you can certainly see that those fruits are starting to reap off now.
And finally, Vern, the squad lands tomorrow, and there's obviously a big day ahead. What's the plan tomorrow? You're obviously joining the celebrations, aren't you, in Joburg?
Yeah, I think it's going to be massive. Look, I think I remember when the Springboks landed at our Tembo, after winning the World Cup, the reception that they've had. And I'm pretty sure we're going to probably see a trophy tour of some sorts, through the streets of South Africa. And it would be wonderful to see, their test mates being displayed in Langa, the home of Temba Bavuma. So, yeah, I think it's a massive occasion for South Africa. And I'm pretty sure that this weekend is going to be a massive one of celebration and just to enjoy those moments. I think as a player as well, I'd never really sink in until you get home on home soil and you see how proud your fans are, of your efforts over there. So I think tomorrow is going to be massive on the South African calendar for sure.
Well, very proud of, I'm sure you're very proud of your boys, and it'll be a fantastic occasion tomorrow, thoroughly deserved. And once again, many congratulations from all our viewers, and I'm sure cricket fans all around the world who are delighted to see South Africa win the World Test Championship. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Zach, and hopefully I'll see you soon again.